In this video, I'm going to share with you exactly what I was thinking in my mind to be able to go from 1990, when I started my first business and I was working a third shift security guard job at the age of 20, earning $6.24 per hour, to where I'm at now. And for one business, not including my other businesses, just from one, because I don't want to make this too complicated for you, to where I make $14,423.08 per hour. I'm going to tell you how I did it. And also, that's the number one reason why you want to watch this video, because if you think about it, we got books, we got CDs, MP3s, all of these gurus online. You got Tony Robbins, Russell, Frank Kern, you name them, all of these people. And you just gotta think to yourself, if they were able to do it, why are you not able to do it when you have the same information? So either they're not giving you the information to allow you to be able to become as successful as they are, or there's something about you that needs to change. From my experience, from my understanding, from what I learned in my life, when I look back to when I started in 1990 with that first company to where I am now, back then in 1990, before I had made any money with my business that I started, is that I had to change myself. That's the difference. All of the information that's out there from all of the different gurus, from all of the different people, as long as it's credible information and that you know that they are doing what they're teaching. Now, I'm not talking about coaches and stuff like that, because if they're teaching you business and you see that they have a business and their business is not coaching you to be in the business or coaching you, it's showing you how to be in business, to sell a product or service. If they can demonstrate that, then, and you've went through their program and you understood everything and you did what they did, but you didn't get the same result, you are the problem, not their information. You are the problem. Just like I had to find out a lot of stuff that I tried before I graduated high school, a lot of stuff that I tried before I joined the United States Army at the age of 18, and it wasn't working out for me. I was the problem. That's why I wasn't successful. It comes to mind. Let me tell you a quick story. There was a Mexican guy when I was 17 years old. He taught me real estate. He taught me how to buy real estate with no money down. He showed me where to go and find people who were getting divorced, couples. Here's the people who are getting divorced. Look up if they have property. He showed me how to look up if they have property. He said, look up the type of mortgage they had. Back then it was called assumable mortgages. He was like, you could approach them, and he showed me exactly how to do it, how to approach them, how to get the property, to take control of the property, and then either sell it or get another mortgage on it. And he was showing me how to do that without using my own credit. He showed me how to do that, but I wasn't ready. I was the problem. I ended up joining the United States Army because my mind wasn't right. I joined the United States Army, served our country for a couple of years, got out at the age of 20, and best job I found was security guard job at a local college, $6.24 per hour. Started my first successful company at the age of 20 while I was working that job. And within 8 months, I was able to quit that job, even though I wasn't making the type of money I'm making now, but I was making more money than working that job. And my future was in my hands. And I've never worked for anyone since 1990. It was actually February of 1990. Been on my own, me and my wife. So now, this is how I got to, and this is how I'm figuring this number here. So first, I'm going to tell you how I figured this $14,423.08 per hour. This is how I figure it. for the company that I started a new company. I still have my other companies, but I started a new one. This is just what I'm making from this one, not counting my other businesses. I started that company in 2019. And this was the difference that I did with this company here that I'm making the $14,423.08 per hour. The difference is I set that business up with people in each position, highly paid people in each spot. So all I had to do was really just look at the accounting, and that's almost on automatic. And I do the accounting because I don't trust people. Just point blank. Me and my wife always been that way. So for the hours I work, I added it up 104 hours a year that I work. And 1 hour is making sure that people were getting paid, sign off on it. It's all lined up for me. All I do is sign off on it. So I know that, and the reason why I do that is because I want to know the amount of payroll for that week. Next, I audit everything that comes out of the checking account. It's usually just a read of all the paychecks that I just approved. I just want to make sure that there was nothing that snuck in. And that's it. Maybe there's some insurance stuff I got to renew throughout the year, yearly, stuff like that. But everything else is handled. And when I added it up, it was 104 hours a year. And with the income that I'm making for that business, it worked out to be $14,423.08. Now you might be wondering, why did I even do that number? Because I did not do that number for making this video. I got that number because we just did some employee reviews of staff members, and we were letting them know how much they're making per hour. Now, they did know what they were making in salary, the ones that are not on hourly, but the ones on salary, they knew what they were making per salary, and we wanted to make it clear to them, this is how many hours you are required to work each week, and none of them are at 40 hours. We just said it needs to be at a certain amount of hours per week, and then if you didn't work those hours per week, then we would deduct your hourly. Then that's how we figured, you're making $175 an hour. You're making, $125 an hour. That's, that's what it was working out. And when they looked at it that way, they were like, I am being paid very good, when you break it down by the hour. And I was just like, told my wife, why don't we just break down our hourly? And that's what we get, because everything is set for that business. Now, let's get to talking about you. Enough about me. When we set up the business, what was the difference between that business and all of the other businesses that we have is that I designed and set up that business to run itself fully, because I don't trust people with the accounting and stuff. And it's with the software and stuff that's out there right now, basically you don't need an accountant, and the services have an accountant attached to it. So the service that we use does all the payroll, pays all the taxes, all of that stuff. It's all done. I don't have to sit there figuring nothing. Basically, I just make sure that there's nothing that snuck in that was an expense or something that shouldn't have went through. That's basically all I do. And that's about 104 hours per year for that business. That business is my fastest growing company by doing that, because everything is delegated out. So now let's talk about you. This is what you need to do. This is a New Year's, since we're going to be doing these New Year's resolutions, which I don't do New Year's resolution, because every day that I do stuff, I have daily goals. I don't sit there and wait for a year and say I'm going to make these resolutions. So there's no New Year's resolution for me and my wife. We do this stuff daily for ourselves. So now let's talk about it. If you want to make changes in your life, one of the number one things that we did, this is very important. There is no such thing as multiple streams of income until you have one stream of income that can pay everything for you. It will never work. Now, I know somebody might pop in and put a comment, I have multiple streams of income and I work solely for myself. you're anomaly. That's not the normal. You have to focus on one business first, make that a success. And what I mean by success, it pays everything. It pays all of the expenses for itself. It pays all of the expenses for you. You got money left over. You can pay your taxes. You're 100% on your own. That's where I've been since 1990. And that's where you need to be. If you are not where you want to be and you're trying all these business opportunities and all of that stuff, this is what you need to do first. So, and if you do this first, everything else will start to come to you. So now the first thing we need to do is we need to take out a piece of paper. Don't be lazy. Take out a piece of paper, get you a pen. Don't worry if you make mistakes. You can cross it out and you can rewrite it. On that piece of paper, I want you to write the following questions and list as many of them as you can in whatever order that comes to you out of your own mind. I'm not going to tell you what to write. I'm not going to tell you the information. You put the information, but this is what I want you to do. And you're going to label this your dream list. Your dream list. So on that dream list, what you want to do is you want to put in what relates to you out of your own mind, your income, if you want to travel, your career, your relationships, material possessions, whatever it is. Don't be afraid. Don't be ashamed. Write it down. Don't think about what somebody else might think. Don't worry about that. As a matter of fact, if you're on YouTube, I want you to write it into the comments. Or if you don't want to, you don't have to. You can keep this to yourself. Now, the next step, that's step one. Step two, what we're going to do is we're going to find out what you know. On a clean sheet of paper, the next thing that you're going to do with your dream list that you describe is why you want each of those specific dreams. Why do you want that relationship? Why do you want that item, that car, that income? Why do you need that? Whatever comes to your mind, that's all you need to put it down. Don't worry if you don't have a reason behind it. Don't worry about it. Just move on. You need to just put down, if you want to drive a Mercedes, why do you want to drive a Mercedes? If you want $100,000 a month income, write down why you want that income. That's step two. Step number three, we're going to put everything in. We're going to prioritize your list. So we're going to start with the stuff on your list. What is the highest priority to you? And so you're going to move those up to the lowest priority. Don't spend too much time on this. Whatever you believe is a high priority to you, not to someone else. Not because somebody else might think it's wrong that that's a high priority to you. You need to put what's a high priority to you. All right, step 4, what we're going to do is we're going to assign time frames. Time frames on how long you are giving yourself to accomplish that goal. So if it's 1 year, if it's 2 years, if it's 5 years, if it's 10 years, whatever you believe you need in time in your own mind to achieve that goal. Next, on the third sheet of paper, what I want you to do is I want you to write down for each of those goals the things that you believe would stop you from being able to achieve those goals. Whatever you believe, not what someone else believes, what you believe would be stopping you from achieving that goal or those goals. Now, the next step that I want you to do is I want you to write down for each of those goals, how will you feel if you don't achieve those goals? How will you feel on the inside? What will you think about yourself? You need to write that down. The next thing I want you to do is I want you to write down how you will be feeling. Let me rephrase that. How you will be feeling when you achieve those goals. How will you feel when you have that car? How will you feel the income, that relationship? How will you feel? Don't worry about what other people may think. You need to write down how you will feel about achieving each of the goals that you wrote down. Okay, now the next step. This is a very important step. What are you willing to do to achieve those goals? What are you willing to do to achieve those goals that you set for yourself? What are you willing to do on a daily basis? What are you willing to do on a daily basis to achieve those goals that you've outlined for yourself? Okay, so now this is very important. This is where you're going to make a major change in your life, and why it's going to become full circle on why you have to focus on the one thing, especially for business, to be successful. See, if you were in a relationship and you wanted to straighten out that relationship and have a good relationship, would you focus on many relationships, or would you focus on that one relationship? If you were trying to improve your health, would you focus on multiple things to improve your health, or would you mainly focus on one thing to improve your health? If you were trying to build a business, would you focus on that one business, or would you focus on multiple businesses? See, this is the key. This is what you need to understand from this lesson, is that once you understand what you need to do for the goals that you want to achieve, and you get that feeling of how you would feel if you achieved them, one of the things that I started to understand was that there was stuff that I was going to have to cut out. There was going to be people that I had to cut out of my life because they were bad for what I wanted to accomplish in my life. There were business opportunities that I had to cut out because it wasn't aligning with what I wanted to do. See, when you understand what you want to do and you have that focus and you know what you want, it allows you to actually be able to move forward into opportunities, into relationships, into things that you want for your life, because you have written down what you want. When you know what you want and things come to you and there's like, oh, like I'll give an example. People come to me and they're like, Steve, you want to get into this fast food franchise? No, I don't want to get into the fast food franchise. I have my businesses. My businesses align with what I want for my personal life, what I want for income. It aligns with everything. So I say no. And I feel okay about saying no right now, because you do not know what you truly, you vaguely know what you want, but you don't truly know what you want. When you write it down, you will get focused. So now it's easy for me to talk about millions of dollars. It's easy for me to talk about the 14 grand per hour that I'm making. But let me go back to 1990. When my wife and I sat down with starting a business that we knew absolutely nothing about. We did not go to college for it. We did not work for anyone that knew that business. We self-taught ourselves in the publishing business. It was a publishing and advertising business. We didn't have a computer. Everything was set up against us. First thing that we did is we said we had a goal. What was that goal? We wanted to get to $6,000 a month. That was in 1990. We wanted to get to $6,000 a month. That was our goal. And for you, you're probably making way more than that right now, but that was our goal. And so what we did every day was pushing to get to that goal. And we had just the one business. We just went store to store, because back then cell phones wasn't out. 1990, it wasn't cell phones. We had to go door to door to businesses and pitch them our advertising magazine. And most people said, hell no, get out of our face. I don't have time. I'm not the owner, whatever. What did we do? We kept doing it over and over and over again. Within 4 years of that business, well, within 8 months of doing that business, we were making $36,000. Obviously, I was able to quit my job and she was able to quit her job, because I'm making $6.24 an hour. $6.24 times 40 and 24 cents times 40 was $249. Why wouldn't I quit? But you know what? It was hard for me to even quit that job, even though I wasn't making nothing. But I still ended up, I had to change. What I talk about, that full circle, I had to change. I had to let that go. When I let that go, we were making $36,000 a year with the business. That's still not a lot of money, but we were in fully in control of our own destiny. And then the next thing, within 4 years, we're making over $100,000 in that business. That business made us millions of dollars. That business gave me the investment to open up other companies. That business gave me the money to buy real estate that we invested in. We invested in rental properties. We invested in commercial properties. So, but the thing that we did, which is what I just lined up for you, because we had income goals. We had goals for our children, what we wanted to be able to set for examples for them. We had goals on what we wanted for ourselves, for our relationship. We're still married to this day, going on 37 years of being together. But you got to have that focus. When you have that focus, guess what starts to happen? When you have that focus, you can be a leader. Because people, not because of what you say, you will become a leader because people will see that you are a leader. A whole bunch of people claim to be leaders, and some people fall for those because they use tricks and gimmicks and use shiny objects and stuff like that. And then when they end up, following them, they see that they got hustled. If you are really doing what you are supposed to be doing, you will become a leader. So now, I don't want to overwhelm you. What I want you to do is I want you to put in the comments, if you feel strong enough about your conviction, to put it out there. And this is a key piece of what Napoleon Hill also talked about in his Laws of Success book. Some of the times you can put it out there. Most of the times you can't put it out there. But there is something that happens when you put it out there in front of people, because eventually, Napoleon Hill did not, he kind of talked about it, but I think that what he was trying to do is prepare people. In Napoleon Hill's book, I got it on my shelf over there. It's page 1024. I think I got that to my memory. And it states in there that you put your mastermind team together. It could be one or two people. It could be a group of people. That mastermind team puts together a goal, that the object that is desired from the team. And that could be for the business, like what I did with the company that's paying me over $14,000 an hour. And that team does what the goal is. And if it doesn't work, they refix it, do it again. But the goal is the same, but you might do things to fix it along the way. What Napoleon Hill did not go into is that at some point you're going to have to put your product service out to the public. And when you do that, you're going to have to go through another change. This is where I believe most people are failing, because people are coursed to death. People are buying books to death. People are MP3 videos, Zooms. People are all into all of that stuff. But when they take that product to market, the embarrassment of failure, and Napoleon Hill tries to get people prepared for it, but he did not, in my estimation, did not do a good enough job of preparing people for the potential embarrassment of putting that out there. He did talk about it, but especially in today's world, and maybe it's because of the internet and all of that stuff didn't exist back then, but people are afraid to put that information out there. And not that they won't do it, but it's like they got one foot out the door and one foot in comfort in the door. And you can't go into business that way. You have to go all the way in and burn your bridges. When my wife and I started that company in 1990, family said we were crazy. Friends laughed at us. Had no money. Had no success under our belt. No experience. No college. No training. No nothing. How are you going to go into business and do that and make it a success when you don't know anything about it? What we knew, but we didn't say it, but what we knew, and we learned it from mentors that we listened to mainly on VHS tapes and audio tapes back then, was that they don't understand what you're trying to do. And Napoleon Hill does talk about that. That's why he says you don't tell people what you're trying to do, because they won't even understand it, even if it does make sense. With our advertising publication, for years, people are like, how are you making money when you're giving it away for free? They had never put two and two together that we charged the businesses to be in the magazine. Some people still didn't even understand it when we told them that. They were like, what, that person, that company pays you to put them in a magazine? Why would they do that? They do that because we distribute the magazine, all of these copies all over the city to all of these high traffic locations, and people pick them up. They see the advertisement, they call, and the advertiser gets calls and has the opportunity to make money. When you go through all of that, some people did get it, but most people still didn't get it, because what their brain starts to do is they start to think of it from their point of view. How can you do that? How can you put them all out? They start to think about, how are you doing all of that? And it doesn't make sense to them. And that's why some of the times you don't need to tell your family what you're doing. As a matter of fact, if you're going into business, you should not allow your family and friends to be customers. I know other people say that family and friends should support you. If they want to, you just give it to them for free. So if you have a restaurant, let them come in, the first time and free, and don't never come in here and pay to eat here. I'm just telling you, you don't want to build a business on family, friends, and referrals. You want to know if you have a real business. When this is how you feel when you have a real business. That means that no matter what is going on with family and friends struggling, no matter what's going on with them and nobody referring you people, that that you put a system in place that's going to, number one, get you money to new customers to come in, which we did even back in 1990 without the internet. We had a system of going to stores. If they said yes, they said yes. If they said no, we wrote it on paper back then and said, we're going to follow back up. We would let them know, can we follow back up in a week or two? Because we know that they're a business. We know that they need customers and they might change their mind. So let's kind of close out this video, and I want to give you one of my hypnotic tricks that you can play on yourself that I've actually been able to do. Don't say trick, hypnotic strategy. Let me ask you this question. If you knew that everything that you wrote on your list that you wanted was going to happen, that you knew 100% that what you wrote on your list was going to happen, and let's just say the majority of it was going to happen in 1 year. Let's just say your income goals, whatever that number that you put down on that paper, was to come true in 1 year. You knew for sure. Like, you were able to look into the future and look, a time machine, see it, and then come back and experience how you got there. If you knew it 100%, how with all of the stuff that you have to do day to day, that you put on the list, that you believe that you got to do to be able to get there, would it really be hard to do if you knew that it was going to happen? It wouldn't be hard to do. But this is like the spice of life, is that would take all of the fun out of life. Part of the fun in life, which we need to all get better at understanding, because we always want to know. But what you have to get used to doing, and what I got used to doing, and what my wife got used to doing, is that you have to just go, like if you're religious, you got to have true faith that things will work out. Like a lot of times people say that they're religious and they don't have any real faith, because they believe that they still got to know what's going to go on. And then they'll pray, but you're praying to God to do something that you have to do the work to do. So is that really true faith? And then people are universal, where, they just believe in this universal, consciousness or something, or the universe, but they don't do what would be necessary to allow the universe to form what they want to happen. So how about thinking about it this way? I want to kind of give you some ideas on how to think of things. Look at this pen. Very nice pen. This pen did not just appear. As a matter of fact, if you put this pen under a microscope, it's a whole bunch of atoms that form this pen. But if you go before the atoms that form the pen, where did that idea for this pen come from? It came from a human's mind. So everything that you want to create in your life has to come from here first. And the only way that it can come from here and materialize is that you know exactly what you want. Because then really the work that you're willing to do every day is really just an exercise to focus more in on what you want. Because you can make stuff happen a lot quicker. The more that you focus, you can make things happen a lot quicker for you. With this business here that I'm making the $14,423.08 per hour, I started that company in 2019. And that was the fastest growing company that I had ever built. The companies that I did before that, it took years to get to million. It took probably 10 years to get to $1 million, And then we kind of floated on, from what I had learned in building the business. But I think even with that business, with my publishing company, the highest we maybe got was 1.5 million in a year. Yeah, I did make good income for myself. I'm not going to complain about that. But I was also working a lot in that business. With this business, don't work that many hours in it. Everything's being done. And I'm making way more money for myself. This is take home, not like, this is after, this is the money that I take, not where I got to chop some expenses and all that stuff. No, this is the money that I take. The business makes way more than that. So that goes to prove that what I had to do, if I looked at it and I said, okay, I'm going to be making this amount of money for myself per year, what would I be willing to do that? All I had to do was put people in place, pay them well so they respected their position, did a very good job because they're getting paid well, and continue doing the business, and it would get to that amount. That's really all I had to do was those steps. You can do that with any business. As a matter of fact, I got a new one that I'll be talking about in another video that I'm doing the same thing for, that I started we launched it January 2025. The money, the gross income from that business is already over $100,000 from that company. And that company is basically an AI company that basically runs itself. We do have a service portion in there that we do need labor to do, but the majority of that business is done by utilizing AI systems. But I'll talk about that in another video. So here's your homework. Go back and watch the video if you need to do it. If you feel strong enough to post it in the comment section, I'd be interested in seeing what some of your goals are. Thank you for your time. This is Stephen A. Williams with Making Money with Stephen A. Williams here on YouTube.